Chapter 1. The City Blues. Jennifer Hughes stared at the blinking cursor on her laptop screen like it was mocking her. The quarterly report was due in 2 hours, and the numbers were starting to blur together. She rubbed her temples, wishing caffeine could solve more than just fatigue. Outside her office window, the city was a gray smear of honking cars and hurried pedestrians, all rushing toward something that never seemed worth the sprint. Her phone buzzed. Another notification from the dating app she'd sworn she was deleting last week. "Brad sent you a message. Hey gorgeous, what's up?" Jennifer groaned and tossed the phone onto the desk like it had personally offended her. "Bad date hangover or bad app hangover?" Chloe's voice floated in from the doorway. She leaned against the frame, stylish as ever in a blazer that probably cost more than Jennifer's entire winter wardrobe. Her auburn hair was twisted into a bun that looked effortless but definitely wasn't. Jennifer sighed. "Both. I'm starting to think the dating pool is just toxic sludge." Chloe smirked. "Sludge with abs, though. Abs don't make up for zero personality," Jennifer shot back, swiveling her chair to face her friend. "Last night's guy spent 20 minutes explaining his crypto portfolio and then asked if I wanted to invest in US. I almost threw my wine at him." Rachel appeared behind Chloe, clutching a coffee like it was a lifeline. Her blonde curls were frizzing from the drizzle outside, and her expression screamed done with everything. "At least yours showed up," she muttered. "Mine canceled because Mercury's in retrograde. I didn't even know men cared about astrology." Jennifer laughed, a short, sharp sound that felt good after a day of spreadsheets. "So we're all officially doomed." "Pretty much," Rachel said, collapsing into the chair opposite Jennifer's desk. "I'm starting to think we should just marry each other and call it a day." Chloe raised an eyebrow. "I'm not splitting a closet with either of you. I've seen your shoe choices." Jennifer grinned despite herself. This was their ritual venting about work, men, and the general absurdity of adult life. But today, the weight of it pressed harder than usual. The holidays were coming, and the thought of spending Christmas alone in her apartment with takeout and Netflix made her stomach sink. She glanced at the tiny snowflake sticker on her calendar, marking December 24th. An idea sparked, wild, impulsive, but warm like the glow of Christmas lights. "What if," she began slowly, "we didn't spend the holidays here?" Rachel perked up. "You mean like a trip?" Jennifer nodded. "My hometown, the small, cozy, and actually knows what Christmas is supposed to feel like. There's a festival every year, lights, music, cooking competitions. It's magical." Chloe tilted her head, intrigued. "Magical as in Hallmark movie magical or magical as in we'll freeze to death in the Midwest magical?" "Hallmark," Jennifer said firmly. "Picture snow-dusted streets, a river that looks like a postcard, and cocoa that doesn't taste like powdered sadness." Rachel's eyes softened. "Honestly, that sounds amazing. Better than scrolling through dating apps while my mom asks why I'm still single." Chloe sighed dramatically. "Fine, I'll trade skyscrapers for snowflakes. But if I end up in a barn helping some rugged stranger fix a tractor, I'm blaming you." Jennifer laughed, the tension in her chest loosening. "Deal. We'll leave in 2 days. I'll handle the details." As her friends launched into a debate about packing strategies, Rachel advocating for practicality, Chloe insisting on 3 pairs of boots, Jennifer felt something she hadn't in weeks. Anticipation. Maybe this trip wouldn't fix everything, but it could be a pause button, a chance to breathe, to remember what joy felt like. Her phone buzzed again. Another dating app notification. She ignored it, staring instead at the snow beginning to fall outside the window. For the first time in a long time, the city didn't feel like a cage. It felt like a place she could leave behind. Chapter 2. Home for the holidays. The highway stretched like a silver ribbon beneath a sky the color of pewter. Jennifer gripped the steering wheel, humming along to a Christmas playlist that had been on repeat since they left the city. Chloe sat in the passenger seat, scrolling through her phone with the air of someone who had accepted defeat against spotty rural service. Rachel was in the back, half asleep under a plaid blanket, her breath fogging the window as snowflakes drifted lazily outside. Jennifer's hometown was 3 hours away, but the drive felt shorter with laughter filling the car. They'd spent the first hour roasting each other's packing choices, Rachel's sensible boots versus Chloe's impractical but Instagram-worthy heels, and the second hour debating which holiday movie deserved the crown. Love actually had nearly caused a friendship-ending argument. As the city skyline faded into rolling fields, Jennifer felt her shoulders loosen. The Midwest had a way of softening edges, like the world exhaled and told you to slow down. She glanced at the rearview mirror, catching Rachel's sleepy smile, and thought, this was the right call. "Okay," Chloe announced dramatically, breaking the quiet. "If this town doesn't have at least one quaint coffee shop with mismatched mugs, I'm leaving." Jennifer laughed. "It has 2. And a bakery that makes cinnamon rolls the size of your head." "Sold," Rachel murmured, eyes still closed. When they finally turned onto the main road, Jennifer's heart gave a little leap. Snow blanketed the rooftops like frosting, and strings of lights draped across lampposts, glowing against the dusk. The river shimmered under a thin sheet of ice, and the old brick storefronts wore wreaths like proud badges of tradition. It was exactly as she remembered, maybe even more magical. Wow, Chloe breathed, pressing her face to the glass. It's like stepping into a Christmas card. Told you, Jennifer said, grinning. Her parents' house sat at the end of a quiet street lined with maple trees, their bare branches dusted in white. Warm light spilled from the windows, and a wreath with a red velvet bough hung on the door like an invitation. Jennifer parked in the driveway, her pulse quickening with nostalgia. The front door flew open before they could knock. Her mom, petite and sprightly in a red sweater, enveloped Jennifer in a hug that smelled like vanilla and pine. "You're here," she exclaimed, then turned to Chloe and Rachel with equal enthusiasm. "And you brought reinforcements. Come in. Come in. Don't let the cold bite you." Inside, the house was a symphony of holiday cheer. Garlands draped along the staircase, stockings hung with care, and the faint sound of Bing Crosby crooning from the living room. The scent of cinnamon and roasted turkey wrapped around them like a blanket. Jennifer's dad appeared from the kitchen, tall and broad-shouldered, with a grin that could melt frost. "There's my girl," he said, pulling her into a bear hug before greeting her friends with a warm handshake. "You ladies hungry? We've got enough food to feed a small army." Rachel perked up instantly. Starving. Dinner was a cozy affair: roast chicken, mashed potatoes, and her mom's famous cranberry salad. Conversation flowed easily, punctuated by laughter and the occasional teasing about Jennifer's childhood quirks. Chloe and Rachel fit in seamlessly, charmed by her parents' warmth and the house's old-fashioned coziness. Later, as they unpacked in the guest rooms, Rachel peeked out the window at the snow falling in soft, lazy spirals. "Jen," she said quietly, "this place, it's perfect." Jennifer smiled, her heart swelling. "Wait until you see the festival." Downstairs, her parents exchanged a glance over mugs of cocoa. Their daughter was home, and for the first time in years, the house felt full again. Chapter 3. Small-town magic. Morning sunlight spilled through the lace curtains, painting the guest room in soft gold. Jennifer stretched beneath the quilt, savoring the quiet. No honking horns, no buzzing notifications, just the distant hum of life moving at a gentler pace. She could almost feel the tension melting from her shoulders. Downstairs, laughter drifted from the kitchen. Chloe and Rachel were already up, chatting with her mom over steaming mugs of coffee. Jennifer padded down the stairs in fuzzy socks, greeted by the smell of cinnamon rolls and fresh brewed coffee. Her mom beamed. "Morning, sweetheart. Sleep well." "Like a rock," Jennifer said, snagging a roll from the plate. "What's on the agenda?" "Tour guide duties," Chloe declared, pointing at Jennifer with mock authority. "Show us this magical town you've been bragging about." Jennifer grinned. "You're going to love it." The streets were alive with holiday cheer. Snow crunched under their boots as they strolled past brick storefronts adorned with wreaths and twinkling lights. A choir sang carols near the gazebo, their voices mingling with the scent of roasted chestnuts from a nearby vendor. Jennifer's heart swelled. This was home, every detail etched in memory. "Okay," Rachel said, snapping a photo of a lamppost wrapped in garland. "This is officially the cutest place I've ever seen." "Told you," Jennifer replied, sipping cocoa from a paper cup. "Wait until the festival." It's like Christmas exploded in a good way. They wandered into the local bakery, where the glass cases gleamed with sugar-dusted pastries. The owner, Mrs. Callahan, looked up and gasped. "Jennifer Hughes. Well, I'll be. Haven't seen you since you were knee-high." Jennifer laughed, hugging the older woman. "It's been a while." Introductions were made, and soon they were sampling gingerbread cookies while Mrs. Callahan regaled them with stories of Jennifer's childhood. Much to Chloe and Rachel's delight, Jennifer rolled her eyes but couldn't stop smiling. This was what she'd missed: the warmth, the familiarity, the sense of belonging. As they stepped back into the crisp air, Jennifer spotted a figure across the street, a man in a navy jacket, carrying a box of decorations. Tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair that curled slightly at the ends. Something about him tugged at her memory, but before she could place it, he disappeared into the hardware store. "Who was that?" Chloe asked, following her gaze. "Not sure," Jennifer said quickly, brushing it off. "Probably just someone from high school." But the image lingered, like a spark waiting for kindling. By late afternoon, they'd toured the riverfront, admired the ice sculptures, and stocked up on enough cocoa to fuel a small army. Back at the house, they collapsed onto the couch, cheeks pink from the cold, hearts light from laughter. Rachel sighed contentedly. "Jen, this was the best idea ever." Jennifer smiled, watching snowflakes drift past the window. For the first time in months, she felt happy. And maybe, just maybe, the season had more surprises in store. Chapter 4. Fireside wisdom dinner had been a feast. Roast turkey, buttery rolls, and enough pie to make Rachel declare she was entering a carb coma. Now, the three women lounged in the living room, legs tucked under blankets, mugs of cocoa steaming on the coffee table. The fire crackled softly, throwing shadows that danced across the walls. Outside, snow fell in lazy spirals, muffling the world in silence. Jennifer sighed, staring into the flames. You know what's depressing? We're sitting here in the coziest place on earth, and all I can think about is how awful dating has become. Rachel groaned. Don't start. I'm still traumatized from my last date. He spent the entire night explaining why tipping is a scam. Chloe snorted. Mine asked if I'd ever considered a poly lifestyle over appetizers. Jennifer laughed, but it was hollow. Seriously, though, where are all the good men? Are they hiding in some secret bunker? Probably, Rachel muttered, with all the decent ones locked away for the apocalypse. A warm chuckle drifted from the doorway. All three women turned. Jennifer's dad stood there, coffee mug in hand, eyes crinkled with amusement. Sorry to interrupt, he said, stepping into the room. But I couldn't help overhearing. Jennifer raised an eyebrow. You've been eavesdropping? Listening, he corrected, settling into the armchair near the fireplace. There's a difference. Chloe grinned. Please, enlighten us. Where are all the good men hiding? He took a slow sip of coffee, then set the mug down with deliberate care. You're asking the wrong question, he said. It's not about where the good men are. It's about how you're looking. The women exchanged puzzled glances. Jennifer leaned forward. Meaning, he smiled, the kind of smile that carried decades of quiet wisdom. You're in here complaining about how terrible all the men are, but you're forgetting one very important part. You're the ones picking them. If every guy you date is a disaster, maybe the problem isn't the men, it's your selection process. Rachel blinked. Ouch. Chloe frowned. That's harsh. Honest, he corrected gently. The trouble with modern dating is that everyone's chasing instant gratification. They want the prize at the finish line, not the journey to get there. And when you treat a person like a prize, you're not looking for a partner, you're looking for a resource. Men know when they're being taken advantage of. Jennifer sat back, stunned. So what do we do? Just lower our standards. He chuckled, shaking his head. No, you change what you value. He rose and crossed to his desk, rummaging for something. When he returned, he carried 3 objects. A flawless crystal, an uncut geode, and a half geode polished to a glassy sheen. He placed them on the coffee table, the firelight catching their edges. See this? He pointed to the perfect crystal. This is what everyone's chasing, the shiny rock that looks complete. Those guys? They're single for a reason, and the reasons usually aren't flattering. He tapped the rough geode. This is the man you should be looking for. Not flashy, not finished. Someone you can grow with. It's not about instant perfection. It's about building something perfect together. Finally, he gestured to the polished geode, its pinks and purples glowing softly. This is what that man becomes with time and effort. Then, with a small flourish, he flipped a switch on the back of the geode. LED lights burst to life, illuminating the crystals in a breathtaking display of color. The glow was warm, gentle, almost spiritual. All 3 women gasped. Jennifer's dad smiled, his voice low and steady. This is what a man can become, with the right woman at his side. Silence settled like snow. The women stared at the glowing geode, its beauty undeniable. Jennifer felt something shift inside her, a quiet truth she hadn't wanted to face. How do we find that guy? She whispered. Because all the ones we meet are, well, jerks. He chuckled again, eyes twinkling. You've probably walked past him 100 times since college. Maybe he's a friend. Maybe just an acquaintance. He's not loud, not flashy. Confidently quiet. When a good man likes you, his protective instincts kick in, naturally without fanfare. He'll walk closer to the street, text good mornings, sleep on the side of the bed nearest the door. Not because he wants to possess you, but because he wants to protect you. Jennifer swallowed hard. His words landed like pebbles in a still pond, rippling through her thoughts. She thought of the man she'd glimpsed earlier, the one with the box of decorations. Tall, steady, unassuming. Why had that image lingered? Her dad stood, stretching. Truth is, all 3 of you probably already know the guy who'd make a wonderful husband. But you're chasing sparkle instead of substance. He left them with that, disappearing down the hall. The room was quiet except for the crackle of the fire. Jennifer stared at the glowing geode, her breath caught. For the first time in years, she wondered if she'd been looking in the wrong direction all along. Chapter 5. Festival Fever. By the time Saturday rolled around, the town had transformed into a living snow globe. Strings of lights crisscrossed Main Street, glowing like captured stars against the winter dusk. The air was thick with the scent of cinnamon, roasted nuts, and something smoky that promised brisket sandwiches. Jennifer stood at the edge of the square with Chloe and Rachel, their breath puffing in clouds as they took in the scene. This is insane, Chloe whispered, eyes wide. It's like Christmas threw up, but in a tasteful way. Jennifer laughed, tugging her scarf tighter. Wait until you taste the cocoa. It's practically a religious experience. The festival was already buzzing. Children darted between stalls clutching candy canes, carolers harmonized near the gazebo, and vendors hawked everything from hand-knit mittens to jars of homemade jam. At the far end, the cooking competition tents loomed like culinary battlegrounds, each one promising glory or indigestion. Rachel inhaled deeply, her cheeks pink from the cold. I smell barbecue. Follow your nose, Jennifer said, steering them toward the food stalls. They passed a table piled high with chocolate chip cookies, another offering steaming mugs of mulled cider. Jennifer's stomach growled, but her heart was too busy soaking in the magic. This was what she'd missed, the laughter, the warmth, the way the whole town seemed to hum with joy. They were halfway to the brisket stand when a voice called out, warm and familiar. Jennifer Hughes? She turned and froze. The man from yesterday stood a few feet away, a box of decorations now replaced by a pair of tongs and an apron dusted with flour. His dark hair curled slightly under a knit cap, and his smile was easy, unforced, like sunlight breaking through clouds. Ethan? The name slipped out before she could stop it. Memories flickered, high school chemistry class, group projects, a quiet boy who always seemed to know the answer but never bragged about it. Wow, he said, his grin widening. It's been, what, 10 years? Something like that. Jennifer felt her pulse quicken. He looked older, broader, but the calm steadiness in his eyes was the same. You're competing? Desserts, he said, lifting the tongs like a badge of honor. My mom roped me in. Apparently, I make a mean bourbon pecan pie. Rachel elbowed Jennifer so hard she nearly spilled her cocoa. We'll have to judge that, Rachel said sweetly, flashing Ethan a smile that was far too innocent. Ethan chuckled. Come by later. I'll save you a slice. Jennifer nodded, trying to ignore the way her stomach fluttered. We will. As they walked away, Chloe leaned in, voice low and gleeful. Okay, who is that and why didn't you warn us? Just someone from high school, Jennifer said, a little too quickly. Someone who looks like he walked out of a lumberjack calendar, Rachel muttered. And he bakes. Jen, this is fate. Jennifer rolled her eyes, but her cheeks burned. Fate? Maybe. Or maybe it was just coincidence. Still, as the strains of Silent Night floated through the crisp air and snowflakes kissed her hair, she couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted, quietly, like the first crackle of a fire before it roars to life. Chapter 6. Sparks and Surprises. The festival was in full swing by late afternoon, a kaleidoscope of lights and laughter. Jennifer wove through the crowd with Chloe and Rachel, their arms laden with paper bags of fudge and jars of spiced jam. The air was crisp, tinged with smoke and the sweet promise of caramel apples. Somewhere nearby, a brass band launched into a jaunty rendition of Jingle Bells, and the sound mingled with the chatter of vendors hawking their wares. Jennifer's heart was light, buoyed by the simple joy of the day, until she spotted Ethan again. He was at the dessert tent, sleeves rolled up, forearms dusted with flour as he arranged pies on a checkered tablecloth. His movements were calm, deliberate, like someone who knew exactly what he was doing and didn't need to announce it. The sight sent an unexpected flutter through Jennifer's chest. Jen, Chloe whispered, nudging her. Your lumberjack baker is over there. Jennifer shot her a look. Stop calling him that. Rachel grinned. Fine, Mr. Pecan Pie. Go say hi. Jennifer hesitated, then squared her shoulders. She wasn't in high school anymore. She could handle a simple conversation. Probably. She approached the tent, the crunch of snow under her boots loud in her ears. Ethan looked up as she neared, and his smile was instant, warm, genuine, like sunlight breaking through clouds. Jennifer Hughes, he said, wiping his hands on a towel. Thought you might swing by. I couldn't resist, she replied, eyeing the pies. These look incredible. Want a slice? He gestured to the bourbon pecan masterpiece, its glossy surface studded with nuts like jewels. Absolutely, Jennifer said, and before she could protest, he was already cutting a generous piece and sliding it onto a paper plate. She took a bite and nearly groaned. Sweet, smoky, with just enough crunch. Okay, she said, mouth full. This is unfairly good. Ethan chuckled, leaning against the table. Glad you approve. For a moment, the noise of the festival faded. Jennifer noticed the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled, the easy confidence in his posture. He wasn't flashy, wasn't trying to impress, just steady, like the river that ran through this town. So, she said, grasping for something to say, you stayed here after high school? Mostly, he replied. Went away for college, came back to help with the family business. Hardware store. Not glamorous, but it pays the bills. Jennifer nodded, surprised by the pang of admiration. In the city, ambition was measured in promotions and corner offices. Here, it was about roots, about showing up when it mattered. And you? He asked. Big city life treating you well? Jennifer hesitated. Depends on the day. His smile softened, like he understood more than she'd said. Well, he said, if you ever need a break from skyscrapers, we've got plenty of sky here. The words were simple, but they landed like a spark in dry tinder. Jennifer felt heat rise to her cheeks, and she was grateful when Rachel appeared at her elbow, grinning like a cat with cream. Jen, Rachel said sweetly, we're signing up for the Anything Goes cooking contest. You in? Jennifer blinked. Wait, what? It'll be fun, Chloe chimed in, already scribbling their names on the clipboard. Team Hughes and Company versus the world. Jennifer groaned. But Ethan's chuckle made her stomach flip. Good luck, he said, eyes twinkling. That category gets creative. Jennifer shot him a mock glare. Thanks for the warning. As she walked away with her friends, the sound of his laughter lingered like the echo of sleigh bells. And for the first time in a long time, Jennifer felt something she hadn't expected. A spark. Quiet, steady, but undeniable. Chapter 7. The cooking chaos. The anything-goes tent was a madhouse. Steam curled from pots, spices perfumed the air, and contestants darted around like caffeinated elves. Jennifer stood at the prep table with Chloe and Rachel, staring at the ingredients they'd been given. Chicken thighs, cranberries, a suspicious jar of pickled jalapenos, and, because fate had a sense of humor, a bag of marshmallows. Rachel blinked. What exactly are we supposed to make with this? Something edible, Chloe said grimly, tying on an apron like she was heading into battle. Preferably something that doesn't kill anyone. Jennifer laughed nervously. Great, so no pressure. They had 30 minutes. The rules were simple. Create a dish using at least 3 of the provided ingredients. The execution, not so simple. Jennifer grabbed the chicken. Rachel started chopping cranberries, and Chloe eyed the marshmallows like they were plotting against her. This is going to be a disaster, Rachel muttered, nearly slicing her finger. Jennifer was about to agree when a familiar voice cut through the chaos. Need a hand. She looked up, and there was Ethan, leaning casually against the edge of their table, flour still dusting his sleeves from the dessert contest. His grin was pure mischief. You look overwhelmed, Jennifer groaned. Understatement of the year. He chuckled, rolling up his sleeves. Mind if I jump in? I've got a few tricks. Before she could answer, he was already grabbing a skillet and lighting the burner with practiced ease. Okay, he said, scanning the ingredients. We'll do a sweet and spicy glaze for the chicken, cranberries, jalapenos, a little sugar, marshmallows. We'll torch them for garnish. Rachel blinked. That's actually brilliant. Jennifer stared at him, equal parts impressed and flustered. You've done this before? Not exactly, he said, tossing cranberries into the pan with a confident flick. But I've improvised a few times. The next 20 minutes were a blur of sizzling pans and laughter. Ethan moved with calm precision, explaining each step while Jennifer followed his lead. At one point, their hands brushed as they reached for the same spoon, and Jennifer felt a jolt like static electricity. Small, sharp, impossible to ignore. Careful, he murmured, steadying her wrist as she stirred the glaze. His touch was warm, grounding, and for a moment, the noise of the tent faded to nothing. When the timer buzzed, their dish was ready. Glazed chicken topped with toasted marshmallows, a combination so bizarre it might actually work. The judges approached, skeptical at first, then surprised when the flavors hit. Sweet, smoky, with a kick of heat. They nodded approvingly, and Jennifer felt a rush of pride. Not bad, Ethan said, his smile easy. You might survive this contest after all. Jennifer laughed, breathless. Thanks to you. He shrugged, eyes twinkling. Team effort. As he walked back to his station, Jennifer watched him go, her heart thudding like sleigh bells. She'd come here for cocoa and nostalgia, not sparks and stolen glances. But as the crowd cheered and snow began to fall outside the tent, she couldn't shake the thought. Maybe her dad had been right. Maybe the man worth noticing wasn't the one with the glitter, but the one who showed up when it mattered. Chapter 8. Snowfall Confessions. The festival wound down as twilight draped the town in shades of indigo and silver. Fire pits flickered along the square, their warmth drawing clusters of people sipping cocoa and laughing softly. Jennifer stood near the gazebo, her cheeks flushed from the cold, and maybe from the way Ethan's smile had lingered in her thoughts all evening. Chloe and Rachel were deep in conversation with a pair of locals, debating the merits of maple fudge versus peppermint bark. Jennifer slipped away, craving a moment of quiet. Her boots crunched over fresh snow as she wandered toward the river, where the world seemed to exhale. The water was a sheet of glass, reflecting the glow of Christmas lights strung along the bridge. Snowflakes drifted lazily, settling on her coat like whispers. She was halfway down the path when a voice called softly behind her. Jennifer. She turned, and there he was, Ethan, hands shoved into his jacket pockets, breath curling in the frosty air. His presence felt like a warm ember in the winter night. Hey, she said, her voice gentler than she intended. Escaping the chaos? He smiled, falling into step beside her. Something like that. Thought you might need a break. They walked in silence for a moment, the crunch of snow their only soundtrack. Jennifer stole a glance at him, at the easy way he moved, the calm in his eyes. He wasn't like the men she'd met in the city, all sharp edges and louder-than-life ambition. Ethan was steady, grounded, like the earth beneath her boots. You did great today, he said suddenly. In the contest. Jennifer laughed. Pretty sure you saved us. Maybe, he admitted, his smile crooked. But you didn't panic. That counts for something. She shrugged, staring at the river. I guess I'm used to chaos. City life is fast, loud. Everyone's chasing something. And you, his voice was quiet, curious. What are you chasing? The question landed like a pebble in still water, sending ripples through her chest. Jennifer hesitated, words tangling in her throat. I don't know anymore, she admitted. I thought I wanted success, the perfect job, the perfect guy. But lately, she trailed off, snowflakes catching in her hair like tiny stars. Lately, I just want something real. Ethan stopped walking. When she turned to face him, his expression was unreadable, soft, but intense, like he was weighing something important. Real's hard to find, he said finally. But it's worth it. Their eyes locked, and for a heartbeat, the world narrowed to the space between them. Jennifer felt it, the pull, quiet but undeniable, like gravity. Her breath hitched. If she leaned in just a little, Jen. Rachel's voice shattered the moment, echoing down the path. We're freezing. Come back before we turn into popsicles. Jennifer blinked, stepping back as reality rushed in. Ethan's smile was faint, almost wistful. Guess that's my cue, she said, forcing a laugh. Guess so, he replied, his voice low. As they walked back toward the glow of the festival, Jennifer's heart thudded like sleigh bells. She'd come here for cocoa and nostalgia, not sparks under snowfall. But as the night wrapped around her like a velvet ribbon, one truth burned bright. Something had begun. Something she wasn't ready to name, but couldn't ignore. Chapter 9. Doubts and drama? Sunday morning dawned pale and quiet, the kind of winter light that made everything look softer, almost fragile. Jennifer sat at the kitchen table nursing a mug of coffee, staring out at the snow-draped yard. Her parents were bustling around preparing for the evening's fireworks. And upstairs, Chloe and Rachel were debating which boots were festive enough for the finale. Jennifer should have felt content. The festival had been magical, the cooking contest a hilarious triumph, and last night's walk by the river. She pressed her lips together, remembering the way Ethan's eyes had held hers, steady and warm, like he could see past every layer she'd built. For a moment, she'd wanted to close the distance, to let herself fall into something real. But then Rachel had called out, and the spell had shattered. Now, doubts gnawed at her like mice in the walls. What was she doing? She lived 3 hours away, in a city that thrived on ambition and noise. Ethan was rooted here, in a town where time moved like molasses. Could they even fit into each other's worlds? Or was she just chasing a holiday fantasy? A snow globe romance that would melt when January came? Her phone buzzed, jolting her from her thoughts. A text from Chloe. Saw Ethan talking to that blonde from the fudge stall. Looked cozy. Just saying. Jennifer's stomach dropped. She stared at the message, a sour taste rising in her throat. Cozy? After last night? She told herself it didn't matter. They weren't anything, not really. But the image lodged in her mind like a splinter. Ethan laughing with someone else, his smile easy, his attention elsewhere. She shoved the phone aside and tried to focus on her coffee, but the warmth did nothing to thaw the chill creeping through her chest. By afternoon, the square was alive again, vendors hawking last-minute treats before the fireworks. Jennifer wandered through the crowd with Chloe and Rachel, her smile brittle. Every laugh felt forced, every carol too sweet. She spotted Ethan near the hardware store booth, chatting with a woman whose blonde curls gleamed under the lights. Jennifer's pulse stuttered. The woman leaned in, laughing at something Ethan said, and Jennifer felt the ground tilt. Jen, Rachel's voice cut through her haze. You okay? Fine, Jennifer lied, tugging her scarf tighter. Just cold. But inside, a storm brewed. Questions, insecurities, the echo of her dad's words about chasing sparkle. Was she doing it again? Expecting perfection, then panicking when reality didn't match the picture in her head? She turned away before Ethan could see her, weaving through the crowd until the music swallowed her whole. That night, as fireworks painted the sky in bursts of crimson and gold, Jennifer stood at the edge of the square, her heart heavy. She'd come here to escape the chaos, to find something real. But now, all she felt was confusion, and the nagging fear that she was about to ruin something before it even began. Behind her, laughter rang out, Ethan's voice, warm and familiar. She didn't turn. Not yet. Chapter 10. The Grand Gesture. The night sky bloomed with color, bursts of crimson, sapphire, and gold painting the darkness in dazzling arcs. The crowd cheered as fireworks thundered overhead, their reflections shimmering on the frozen river. Jennifer stood at the edge of the square, her scarf pulled tight, her heart heavier than the winter air. She'd spent the day dodging Ethan, convincing herself it was for the best. Better to keep things simple, to avoid the ache of wanting something she couldn't have. But every time the sky lit up, she thought of his smile, steady and warm, and the way his voice had lingered like a melody she couldn't forget. Jennifer. The voice came from behind her, low, familiar, cutting through the roar of the crowd like a thread of calm. She turned. Ethan stood a few feet away, his breath curling in the frosty air, his eyes fixed on hers. In his hands he held something, a small wooden box, polished smooth, glowing faintly under the festival lights. I've been looking for you, he said, stepping closer. His tone wasn't casual, carried weight like every word mattered. Jennifer swallowed hard. I didn't want to interrupt. You seemed busy. His brow furrowed. Busy? With what? She hesitated, then blurted. With her. The woman at the booth. For a beat, silence stretched between them. Then Ethan laughed softly. Not mocking, but surprised. Jen, that was my cousin. She came down to help with the hardware stall. Jennifer felt heat flood her cheeks. Oh, he echoed, his smile gentle now. Is that why you've been avoiding me? She opened her mouth, then closed it, words tangling like Christmas lights. I didn't want to make things complicated. Ethan's gaze held hers, steady as ever. Complicated isn't always bad. He lifted the box and flipped the latch. Inside, nestled in velvet, was a geode, halved and polished, its crystals glowing softly under tiny embedded LED lights. Pink and purple facets shimmered like frozen fireworks, casting a warm halo in the winter night. Jennifer's breath caught. Ethan, it's beautiful. My dad taught me how to cut and polish, he said quietly. I remembered how much you loved the ones in science class. Thought you might like this. Her throat tightened. The gesture wasn't grand in the way city men made gestures. No flashy rings, no champagne. It was thoughtful, personal, rooted in memory and care. It was everything her father had said. Substance over sparkle. I didn't make it for the contest, Ethan added, his voice low. I made it for you. The fireworks boomed overhead, painting his face in crimson and gold. Jennifer felt something inside her shift, like ice cracking to reveal the river beneath. All the doubts, all the noise melted away, leaving only this moment, this man, and the truth she'd been too afraid to admit. She stepped closer, her breath mingling with his. Ethan, she whispered. I think I've been looking for the wrong things. His smile was slow, tender. Maybe you found the right one now. And then, under a sky ablaze with color, Jennifer kissed him. Soft at first, then certain, like a promise written in starlight. The crowd cheered for the fireworks, but Jennifer barely heard. Her world had narrowed to the warmth of his hands, the steadiness of his heart, and the glow of a geode that shimmered like magic between them. Chapter 11. Love under the lights. The kiss lingered like the last note of a carol, sweet and steady, until the fireworks faded into a hush. Jennifer pulled back just enough to see Ethan's face. His smile soft, his eyes glowing like embers in the winter dark. For a moment, the world felt impossibly still, as if the snowflakes themselves had paused to watch. Then, of course, reality crashed in. Jen! Rachel's voice rang out like a trumpet blast. Jennifer turned just in time to see her two best friends barreling toward them through the crowd, scarves flying, cocoa sloshing dangerously from paper cups. Oh my God! Chloe gasped, skidding to a stop. Did we just witness a hallmark moment in real life? Jennifer felt her cheeks blaze. It's not. It is, Rachel declared, eyes wide with glee. You kissed him, under fireworks, while holding a glowing rock. Jen, this is peak Christmas romance. Ethan chuckled, rubbing the back of his neck, clearly amused by the spectacle. Nice to meet your friends, he said dryly. Friends, Chloe snorted. We're her hype squad, and we fully approve. Jennifer groaned, burying her face in her scarf. Can we not make this a public announcement? Too late, Rachel said, whipping out her phone. This deserves documentation. Ethan leaned closer, voice low enough for only Jennifer to hear. Should I smile for the camera? She shot him a look, half mortified, half laughing. Don't you dare. But he grinned anyway, and Jennifer couldn't help it. She laughed, the sound bubbling up like champagne. The tension that had knotted her chest all day unraveled in an instant, leaving only warmth and wonder. The four of them wandered back toward the square, where the last of the fireworks fizzled into smoke and the crowd began to disperse. Jennifer walked beside Ethan, their hands brushing now and then, until finally, quietly, they intertwined. No fanfare, no grand gesture, just a simple touch that felt like everything. Behind them, Chloe and Rachel whispered furiously, plotting who knows what. Jennifer caught snippets, double date, matching pajamas, future Christmas cards, and shook her head, smiling despite herself. As they passed the gazebo, Ethan squeezed her hand gently. You okay? He asked. Jennifer looked up at him, at the steady calm in his eyes, and felt something settle deep inside her, a certainty she hadn't known she was missing. Yeah, she said softly. Better than okay. And for the first time in a long time, she meant it. Chapter 12. New beginnings. Morning crept in softly, gilding the snow outside with pale gold. Jennifer woke to the scent of coffee and cinnamon drifting up from the kitchen, the kind of smell that wrapped around you like a hug. For a moment, she lay still beneath the quilt, replaying last night, the fireworks, the kiss, the way Ethan's hand had fit so naturally in hers. It felt like a dream, but the glow in her chest told her it was real. Downstairs, laughter floated through the house. Jennifer slipped into a sweater and padded down the stairs, her socks whispering against the wood. In the kitchen, her mom was flipping pancakes while humming along to Bing Crosby. Her dad sat at the table, newspaper spread out, coffee steaming in his favorite mug. And there, Leaning casually against the counter, chatting with Rachel and Chloe, was Ethan. Jennifer froze for half a second, heart doing a ridiculous somersault. He looked up, and that smile, the one that made everything else fade, lit his face. "Morning," he said, voice warm as the coffee in her mom's pot. "Morning," Jennifer managed, cheeks heating as she crossed the room. Rachel shot her a look so loaded with meaning it could have powered the Christmas lights for a week. Chloe, never subtle, waggled her eyebrows like a cartoon villain. "Pancakes," her mom chirped, oblivious or pretending to be. "We've got enough to feed an army." Jennifer slid into a chair, and Ethan joined her, his knee brushing hers under the table. The contact was small, accidental maybe, but it sent a spark racing up her spine. Conversation flowed easily, festival highlights, cooking contest disasters, Rachel's dramatic retelling of how she saved the fudge stand from certain doom. Jennifer laughed until her sides ached, and every time she glanced at Ethan, he was already looking at her, eyes steady, like he'd been waiting for this moment all along. After breakfast, they lingered in the living room, the fire crackling softly. Snow fell outside in lazy spirals, and Jennifer felt cocooned in warmth. Family, friends, and something new blooming quietly between her and Ethan. He leaned closer, voice low enough for only her to hear. "I was thinking," he said, "maybe we could take a walk later. Just us." Her heart fluttered. "I'd like that." And in that simple exchange, something shifted. Not loud, not dramatic, but deep and certain. The kind of shift that felt like roots taking hold, like the start of something that could last. Chapter 13. The glow within. The city skyline shimmered under a pale winter sun, glass towers catching the light like shards of ice. Jennifer sat by her apartment window, a mug of tea warming her hands, watching snowflakes swirl between the buildings. The hum of traffic below was familiar, but it no longer felt like the pulse of her life. It was just background noise. On the coffee table, the geode glowed softly, its pink and purple crystals lit from within by tiny LEDs. Ethan's gift. She'd placed it where she could see it every day, a reminder of something her father had said. Everything that glitters isn't gold. The real beauty takes time. Jennifer traced the edge of the stone, smiling at the memory of the festival, the laughter, the chaos of the cooking contest, the fireworks painting the sky while Ethan's steady voice cut through the noise. She thought of his hands brushing hers, the warmth of his smile, the way he'd looked at her like she was more than a passing moment. They talked before she left, really talked. About distance, about what mattered, about building something real instead of chasing perfection. It wasn't a grand plan, just a promise, to try, to see where this could go. And for the first time in years, Jennifer felt like that was enough. Her phone buzzed. A message from Ethan. "Morning. Hope the city's treating you okay. Walked by the river today, snow was falling just like that night. Thought of you." Jennifer's heart lifted. She typed back, fingers flying. "Missed that river. And you. Let's plan something soon." As she hit send, the geode's glow caught her eye again. Warm, steady, beautiful in its imperfection. Jennifer smiled, a quiet certainty settling deep inside her. Love wasn't about sparkle or shortcuts. It was about roots, about growth, about finding someone who showed up when it mattered. Outside, the city roared on, but inside, Jennifer felt calm, hopeful, ready. And as the snow kept falling, she whispered to herself, "This time, I'm building something real." Epilogue. 1 year later, snow fell in soft, lazy spirals outside the Hughes family home, just as it had last Christmas. Jennifer stood in the kitchen, arranging a platter of gingerbread cookies, while laughter drifted from the living room. The house was full again. Chloe and Rachel were curled up on the couch with their partners, both glowing with the kind of happiness that came from love that had roots. Chloe's boyfriend, Mark, was telling a story about their disastrous first ski trip, and Rachel's fiancé, yes, fiancé, was laughing so hard he nearly spilled his cocoa. Jennifer smiled, her heart swelling. A year ago, they'd all been frustrated and lost, wondering where the good men had gone. Now here they were, healthy, loved, and building futures that felt solid. Jennifer wiped her hands on a towel and glanced toward the window. Outside, Ethan was talking with her father near the old maple tree, their breath curling in the frosty air. She couldn't hear the words, but she could see the easy way her dad's hand rested on Ethan's shoulder, the nod of approval that made warmth bloom in her chest. Moments later, the door creaked open, and Ethan stepped inside, snow dusting his jacket, eyes bright with something that made Jennifer's pulse quicken. He crossed the room in a few strides, stopping just in front of her. The chatter behind them faded into a hum. "Jen," he said softly, pulling a small box from his pocket. Her breath caught as he flipped it open, revealing a ring that gleamed like starlight. Simple, elegant, perfect. "I talked to your dad," Ethan continued, his voice steady but threaded with emotion. "Not because I needed permission, but because I wanted him to know what I already know, that I love you, that I want to spend every Christmas, every ordinary day, with you." Jennifer's eyes blurred with tears. "Ethan," he smiled, that quiet, grounding smile that had changed everything. "Will you marry me?" The The world seemed to hold its breath. Then Jennifer nodded, laughter breaking through her tears. Yes, she whispered, and when he slipped the ring onto her finger, the room erupted in cheers. Chloe shrieking, Rachel crying, her parents clapping with joy. Ethan pulled her close, and as snow fell beyond the frosted windows, Jennifer thought of the geode still glowing on her nightstand, a reminder that real beauty takes time. And love, she realized, wasn't about chasing sparkle. It was about finding someone who showed up, who stayed, who built something lasting. And with Ethan's arms around her and the future unfolding like a ribbon of light, Jennifer knew she'd found it.